Hello and welcome to Cracking the Cryptic. So today I'm going to have a look at a 10 rated Killer Sudoku from the dailykillersudoku.com site. Puzzle 17591 if you want to try it yourself, but have a look at this grid. Now, there's not a lot of great starting points, so I'm going to start, there are a couple of cages where there's only one pairing of numbers and they can go in like that. But after that, we're basically reduced to spotting grouped columns and rows that fit together well. So if you look at these two columns, that set of shapes that I've highlighted adds up to 104. Now we know that each column, like each row and box, must contain 1 to 9 and must therefore add up to 45. So columns 1 and 2 must add up to 90. These other two cells sticking out must add up to 14. So they're either 9, 9, 5 or 8, 6, one of those pairs. Similarly, this is a useful column to spot, column 6, and those numbers in those three cages add up to 60. 45 in column 6, therefore the other two are either 9, 6 or 8, 7. They're a pair that add up to 15. And there's another pair that adds up to 15 in the same column, so that's either 8, 7 or 9, 6. And the reason that's very interesting is in this column 5, there's only one cell where there could be a 5 now. We've ruled it out of the ones where we've filled in numbers. It can't be in this cage 5, and it can't be here because that 10 would have to be 5, 5. So the 5 must be here, and that's quite useful. Now within this box up here, those two cages add up to 38. So the other cells in the box must be 1, 2 and 4 in some order. And that's reasonably useful, I hope. Given that this cage adds up to 5, it's either 1, 4 or 2, 3. So the same must be true of this pair, which are the other numbers from 1, 2, 3 and 4. So they must add up to 5. So this cell must be either 2 or 4. Sorry, that one isn't 2 or 4. And this one must therefore be 6 or 8 to make up the 10 cage. And now, if we look at columns 3 and 4 only, what I'm going to do is highlight the cages that are completely in 3 or 4, and they add up to 60. So remember that 60. We know that these two add up to 14. We worked that out before, so that takes the total to 74. Plus that 7 is 81. And then these two must add up to 9 to make those two columns add up to 90. And that's quite helpful because then we can tell that that's 8 and 1. That's the only way the numbers in those cells could add up to 9. And that's given us a few more cells here. That can't be 2, that must be 1 or 4. In fact, given that these three were 1, 2 and 4, and that we've got a 1 here, we know that where the 1 is. And that gets us going reasonably well there. So that's quite a nice start. Now, this group of cells, that can't be a 7 anymore. This cage is made up of 3, 6, 8, 9 in some order, and the 3 must be there. So one of those two must be a 3, for instance. This cage of 10 can't have a 1 in it. It must now be 2, 3, 5 in some order. And that means that this pair can't be 5 and 9. They must be 6 and 8. So now that could be 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9 or 7, which makes this one either 3 or 5. These could be 9, 7 or 4, although it can't be a 9 there. That must be 6 or 9 there. What else have we got going on here? Those two cages add up to 26, so these other 3 cells add up to 19. So the maximum this could be is a 6, I think. And it couldn't actually be a 6 because there's no 3-digit combination of those that wouldn't repeat a 6. So it has to be less than a 6, and it can't be a 4, 2, or 1 because they're in the same column, or a 3, it must be a 5. This 12 must have a 5 in it, it must be 1, 5, 6 therefore, and that's sorting out where the 6 is there. That makes that one a 9 because those two added up to 15. And now we're making some very good progress, I think. That can't be 6, 9, or 8 now because of the column and the box it's in. So those are, yeah, this is all resolving itself fairly completely now. 14, that must be the 4, that must be the 9. Right, so that's a good start. Now, again, looking at these two cages, they add up to 44, 28 and 16, plus the 1 and the 9, which is 10, 54. So everything in this range adds up to 54, and obviously one box must add up to 45. So that leaves 9 there. These two cages add up to 35, plus the 9 is 44, that puts a 1 there. 1 must go with 3 and 9 because 4 and 5 are already gone in the column, in the row. And now there's another group of cages here which almost complete this box and a little more. They add up to 56. That means that these two add up to 11. They could at the moment be 8 and 3 or 6 and 5. If they're 11 and that's 22, that little cross-shaped, that's 33, these two must add up to 12. And we know they can't be 9 and 3, and we know they can't be 4 and 8. So they must be 5 and 7. That means that these two can't be 5 and 6 after all. So that can't be 5 or 3 in its row. What else have we got? That can't be 3 in its row. So that whole 10 cage is resolved. That can't be 1 or 5. That's quite useful. And that top one, because of that, this can't be 5. So again, some very forward thinking. Now we've got a 4 and a 2 to put in here. That's going to help. Because of that 2, that had to be the 4, and we've got 6 or 8 to go in here because of 8 being in one of those two, that must be a 6. And this is pretty good progress now. I mean, you know, 1 or 2 little spots of what made up sets of columns, and we're well away. This these pair has to add up to 7 to make the 16 box. Can't be 6, 1 or 4, 3. It must be 2, 5. 2, 5, 4, 1 now. What do we get over here? This 11 box. Can't be 9, 2, 6, 5 or 7, 4, so that's 3, 8. And that's interesting, that gives us a 3, 8 pair here as well in the final column. I think that might be useful. This cell can't be 3, 9, 4, 5, 8, 2 or 6, must be 1 or 7. Let's see. How about this? 2, 5, 9, 4, 1. At the moment, that could be 6, 7, 8, or 3. Where should I be looking now? That 13 can't be 6, 7, but it could still be 8, 5 in that order, or 4, 9. 8, 5 in that order because we know that 3 and 8 are used there. And because we know that 3 and 8 are used in that column, that cell can't be 3 or 8. Now, for this to be 15, that is going to have to use 1, 7 and either a 6 or a 5, so it's 1 and 3 or 1 and 2 here. And so 1 is in that row, so this doesn't have a 1 in it. 3, that can't be a 3 in fact. And that can't be a 2. Right, 3, 8. Oh, that's interesting. This box, this 28 box, is too much to have a 3 in it, so that must be the 8. Fair enough. Okay, should have spotted that before. I should know my 28 combination slightly better. Now that means this 13 can't have B85 because there are 8s in both columns. So that's 4-9, so that's quite useful. Now, so this doesn't have a 3 in it, but I'm not quite sure whether it's 4-7-9 or 5-6-9. 4-9-1-2-6. That has to be a 5. It's the only possible place for a 5 in the top row. So that's not a 5. And now the maximum. I'm not sure about that. 5, 1, 3, 2. This has got a 5 and a 7 in it, and not a 4 and a 9. So these need to. That's either 3 or 7. They're the only possibilities there. 5, 7, 9, 4, 1, 2. That's 3, 8, or 6. I think this now has to be 3, 5, 6, 7. In fact, that can't be a 7 because of the cage 7 already. Okay, so now we're getting everything resolved, I think. Yeah, this does have to be 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's not a 6. 5, 6, 7, 8, 3. That's not a 1. So this has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. So that's not 1 or a 4. And I think we're moving in on a finish gradually now. So, as I say, you just needed to follow through the logic of those early spots where, oh, that's quite useful, 6 and 8 already in this row here, and 2 pairs of 6 and 8, so they must be in those 2 boxes. That has to be a 9. It's the only place left for a 9 in row 2, and that must be 3, 4. For this has got 4, 3, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, actually, I'm still not quite sure which is which out of that 6 and 8 up there. Ah, that's a 3. Right, okay. There we go. So because of that 3, that's fixed this 8 and 3. That fixes this 8 and 6. And now we are sure about the 8 and 6 finally. So that 6 and 8 that we kind of spotted very near the beginning of the puzzle has finally resolved itself. And we can now move in on the finish, as I said. 1, 5. 6, 2. This is a 8, 7 up there in that order. That's fixed that 7 and 6. The 9 and 3 has been resolved. And now we've just got these cells here to finish off. That can't be 7. And 3 more cells to go. Simple enough now, thank goodness. There we go. And that's how to solve a 10 rated killer. Focus on the 45 groups or groups that make 90 and see what other deductions they can lead to, and then kind of follow through. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you again on Cracking the Cryptic soon. Bye for now.